Buenos Aires is not just a city of tango and history, but also a prime destination for real estate investors.
Welcome to Global Real Estate Insider, a podcast where we share tips and strategies to help international homebuyers and investors. Whether you're looking for a new home abroad or an agent eager to expand your reach, this podcast is the ultimate guide to navigating global real estate markets. Here's your host, Nick Marr.
And have we got a really good opportunity for you today? Today, we're taking you to Buenos Aires, Argentina. It's the vibrant capital of Argentina, where European charm meets Latin American energy. Known for its stunning architecture, world-class cuisine. Joining us today is Max Götz. He is a seasoned real estate professional with over 25 years experience. Max specializes in both city and province of Buenos Aires, providing expert guidance to local and international clients. He's also a member of the National Association of Realtors. So welcome, Max. Lovely to have you on the show. I'm excited to learn more about Argentina and in particular Buenos Aires and that real estate market. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Max.
Well, thanks for the lovely intro, and thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be on your show. A little bit about me. I'm a native Argentine. I was born and raised here, but I went to an American school here in BA. And my family is from the United States. Grandparents were native New Yorkers, and my mother divvied her time between New York and Argentina. So between the school, which was full-on immersive in English, and the fact that English was very heavily spoken at home, and the fact that I would spend 2 months or sometimes 3 out of the year in the United States, that kind of stuck with me. So that's how I picked up English almost as a first language, which I think I use predominantly more than I do my own native Spanish. And that has made the difference in terms of work.
Yeah.
I went to school, kindergarten through grade 12. Then I went to university here in Buenos Aires. I did a short stint, or not so short, but I did a 4-year stint in law school, which never took on. I started to work in property management with foreigners who own property here. And that kind of over time snowballed in a good sense to my being able to make a professional endeavor out of that, managing properties, doing vacation rentals and things of that sort, until eventually I decided that I didn't want to send my business to the next guy. So I went back to school. I got a broker's degree, which here is a university 3-year program. And I became what could be described as a licensed real estate professional, licensed for the city of BA and for the province of BA. And over time, we just kind of carved out a niche of helping foreigners buy a property here or sell their property here or really anything in between.
Okay. Wow. And how's it been? How's the market been for you in the last few years?
Well, interestingly, what surprised me was that, as you know, not too long ago, we had this global pandemic, which created any number of problems around the world. And Argentina was already an ailing patient economically. So the pandemic was yet another coffin in the box for a lot of aspects of the economy. Real estate in terms of rental was certainly one of them, although a lot of people were stranded in Argentina and needed to have a place to live. That sort of tripled or quadrupled our workload in finding places for people. But also what I thought was especially interesting is that the demand for people looking to buy suddenly also became exponential. So this is by way of saying that the pandemic was not only not terrible for us, it was quite the contrary. It was business started to boom. Wow. To this day, I'm still not exactly sure how that equation works out, but it started to be very profitable for us. And then the years prior to and the years following the pandemic, because the pandemic was just one in several factors, but the years before and after the pandemic were laden with recession. And well, our economy, most people might know, can be mercurial at best in nature. Yeah. So this created a veritable buyer's market. Now, that's all well and good. When you couple that with the fact that Buenos Aires is a world-class destination and can very well hold a candle up to a lot of European cities, it becomes appealing. It's not just a place where you can buy something cheap. It's something where you can buy something cheap, and also culturally, it has a lot to offer. Socially, it has a lot to offer. One has to remember that Argentina is the 8th largest geography in the world, one of the largest lithium deposits, potable water deposits. From a tourism standpoint, we have beach, we have snow, we have grasslands, we have desert, we have cities. So again, it's got something for everyone.
Okay.
And this past year and change has been especially interesting in terms of the influx of foreigners finding out and wanting to learn more about Argentina and Buenos Aires in particular, and lifestyle and buying property and owning property. A lot of people I always find, I think it might be your case when you fly down, they are pleasantly surprised. They don't know what to expect. They might have heard stories. They might have seen movies. They might compare it to Colombia or Mexico. And Argentina, really, everyone I've known who's come here, who's spent time here, if you diagram it as a pie chart, one of the main reasons why people flock Buenos Aires and or buy property in Buenos Aires is because they are enamored by it. They find themselves at home. The Italian culture mixed with the Latin flair of it is something that, especially in the North American crowd and Western Europe crowd, is appealing.
Okay. What's the current property market like right now? What's available now? If someone listening to this, so some of our listeners are digital nomads. There'll be people looking to escape winters, that type of stuff. And also people just want a second home abroad. Maybe they want to do something with Airbnb or something similar like that. I don't know. Yeah. What's the sort of property market like right now for those type of people?
Well, first I would say that those 3 reasons that you just described are pretty much the main 3 reasons why people would consider, the snowbirds, the nomads, the second home. A 4th reason, interestingly enough, is people say to me, I don't like the direction my country is going in. And this can apply for the US, for Canada, especially Europe nowadays. We're getting a lot of those comments. And so regardless of what side of the political spectrum you land, it's something that is coming up more and more and more. Now, I didn't pay much attention to it the first or second time it came up, but it comes up very, very often.
Yeah,
so to answer your question, there are any number of factors that will determine what the market is doing or what you as a buyer might be interested in. Any number of factors, not least of which is a budget or just plain old what you like and what you dislike. But a typical ticket price for a property of, let's say, a bedroom or a studio in a good area of town, we might say Palermo Hollywood, Palermo Soho, Recoleta, you could be talking about anywhere between 80,000 and 120 or 130,000. You can very easily find something within that bracket.
US
there
dollars.
are things below it.
That's
That's US dollars. Forgive me. Yes.
Wow. Okay. That's incredible.
It is interesting. Yes. Now this obviously comes with, again, several factors, including general condition of the apartment, general condition of the building, any number of things that our office kind of swoops in and advises us to, you know what, don't buy this one, check that one, or let's wait, the price will go down. But you can do well in buying something for under 100,000. You could buy really, really great things for well above that. We've had people we found diamonds in the rough for them, things that would normally go for $1.2 million, $1.3 million that we were able to pick up at 700 or 600,000. So a lot of it depends on the motivation of the seller. And as I mentioned, it's been a buyer's market over the past several years. And so that creates, as you can imagine, several motivated sellers. I do believe we bottomed out in September of 2023. It feels as though starting in October of 2023, prices very gingerly started to go up, especially in newer developments.
Yeah.
But that also may or may not be. It's one man's opinion. It's what I've seen,
Yeah.
but certainly I'm seeing still a range of negotiating. You don't pay sticker price, so there's always a margin for negotiation.
Okay. So let me just think. So if I've got, say, 150,000 US, I could get myself maybe a 2-bed apartment in a reasonable area in Buenos Aires.
Yeah,
150,000.
I would say that $100,000 could get you a 2-bedroom apartment in some of the good areas, good/better areas of the city. But at that range, for that amount of square footage, you would be talking about something which would potentially be a little bit on the older side of things, and or in an older building. When I say older, I mean 25, 30 years. Nothing that would mean it would be falling apart or decrepit, but just a lot of people favor the newer kind of amenity filled buildings.
And what would that rent out for? Something like that. What would be the typical rent?
Well, that's where it becomes a projection, because things can change at any given time. And for example, they have changed over the past year and a half.
Yeah.
And so where, not to bore you with details, but where we had about a year and a half ago, a rental law that was abysmal for both owner and tenant,
Yeah.
that created a bottleneck where there were very few rentals available. And so what was available was going at incredibly high prices.
Okay.
The market was deregulated by President Milei during his first week in office. And that opened up the floodgates to people saying, well, okay, I like these conditions more. I'm going to put my property back up in the market. And sure enough, that created more of a sense of normalcy in the market, to where now I would say there is, to a point, an overabundance. So it's a difficult question to answer, but
Okay.
the good news is you are now free and clear to negotiate whatever you wish. There's more of a laissez-faire policy in place, to where if you want to rent out your place in US dollars or euros or yens,
Yeah.
you can do that, to where only Argentine pesos was the legal mandated way of contracting with another party. Again, the number is hard to say. It's going to depend on location, on what you have to offer, on what the building might have. It's going to be several factors, but yeah, it's a little bit tough to answer.
Okay. So from a foreign buyer's point of view, what sort of neighborhoods or areas would you recommend to someone looking for, say, a long-term investment property?
Well, I've seen, first of all, it should be noted that people inquire about not just the city of Buenos Aires, but also other places around the country. Some are looking for farmland. Some are looking for specifically something by the beach. And there's always an X factor, which is what one likes. They work inductively rather than deductively, which is to say, I know that I want a house by the beach. So let's see what's out there and let's whittle it down based on that. As
Yeah.
opposed to saying, I've got so much money, I've got these areas in mind, and then let's whittle that down to one option. So that makes for an interesting methodology of work. I would say that, barring that, the city of Buenos Aires, in my experience, what I have seen is an interest in possibly one of 4 places, which would be Palermo Soho, Palermo Hollywood, which are 2 of the more, I would say, hip and happening places.
Yeah.
Recoleta is probably a very close second or third, where more of the old money and where more of the, you might, to draw a parallel, you could say, certain pockets of London right around Hyde Park, or comparable to New York, the Upper East Side, places which are a bit more perhaps on the high end side, where the old money is and where it's more classic. And while there is a nightlife, it is more, to a point, tranquil and family driven, although it's not always that case. And then another option is always popular is San Telmo. Now, San Telmo is more of a bohemian feel, which has a little bit more of a grittiness to it. Um, and it's very European with low standalone houses a lot and other buildings which are very French in style. So that also appeals to, again, to my North American clients, because that's not something that you see a lot in most United States or Canadian cities, as everything is modern than not. Those would be the areas that I think that over the years, we've seen the most amount of interest because of the taste people have, but also because of resale value. These are places where the square meter, the first three in particular, I would argue, garner value over time.
Okay, interesting. So, how is it for foreign buyers? There's some restrictions, or what can you do, what you can't do? Give us the lowdown, Max.
Well, insofar as the city goes, or really any urban location, there aren't any restrictions. It's a very, bureaucratically speaking, it's a very clear-cut process to where the only thing a foreigner needs, of course, is to be over age, and some manner of ID could be your passport. And then there is a specific tax ID which is required by foreigners, which is something that it's called a CDI. And the government grants that to foreigners so that they could buy any manner of registrable goods, chief among them real estate. And this is something which is very easily obtained. We have accountants on our payroll who do this. One can go and do it on one's own if one wanted to. So in terms of what the restrictions are or what you can do, I would say there basically are none. That changes ever so slightly if you were to look at buying let's say, a house by the lake down in Patagonia, which is also a fairly sought after location. This is the area down south where, the likes of Benetton and Robert Duvall and Francis Ford Coppola have places. So there are certain restrictions in place to where if you are a foreigner, you cannot buy if you are within a specific distance of a body of water or a boundary, whether it's provincial or national. Add to this, there is a land registry which goes province by province, where it dictates what percentage of the land in that province can be purchased by foreigners. Mendoza might be, just to cite an example, might be 20%. The province of Buenos Aires might be 32%. And that registrar says what percentage is currently owned by foreigners. So it tells you if they have met the quota or not. So there are certain minor restrictions, but I would say that 85-90% of our clients focus on the city or the suburbs or a province, but an urban location. We've only had a handful of people that have sought out land for cultivation or exploration of any kind.
Okay, just going back to that's really interesting. It sounds doable. It sounds attractive. It doesn't sound too onerous process for foreign buyers. I was just thinking about the maintenance costs and property costs, and some regions have strange taxes and things. How does it compare? Say, if I owned an apartment, a 2-bed apartment in a block, what sort of things would I need to consider?
Okay, well, it's good to differentiate between the taxes that a property might pay and the taxes that you as a homeowner would pay. Let's get the easy part out of the way. In terms of you buy a property in Buenos Aires, Argentina, the only thing that property pays for is, yes, the utilities, light, gas, water, internet, the HOAs, the building co-op fees. The city of BA has one tax which unifies both the value of the land and the public sweeping and the public lighting. Now, I would say that that's very inexpensive, so much so that they are negligible amounts unless you own a very big house. But they are really negligible amounts. Just to give you an example of something that pops into my head, one such unit in a good area, which is Recoleta, that we manage, I believe pays, it's a 1-bedroom, it's about 50 square meters or 400 some odd square feet. It pays, I think, something like 1,800 Argentine pesos per month, which is about 12, $13. Am I getting that right? It's under $20 a month.
Yeah.
And if you pay the entirety of that yearly, you get a 10% discount. So city taxes as such are not expensive. They're just not.
That's interesting.
Now, where you do have an issue is that Argentina is, unfortunately, one of the countries with a higher level of taxation. For example, the value-added tax, 21%, which I think is like the third or fourth in the world. It's pretty up there. As a owner of assets in Argentina, you are required by law. Whether or not you go through with that is something entirely for you to discuss with your accountant, both in Argentina and back in the UK. But as a matter of law, you are required to pay personal wealth, assets, and then what's called in Spanish, I guess, ingresos brutos, which is, I guess, the earnings that you might make if, for instance, you were to rent the property out. Some of these laws have been modified. I can't speak intelligently as to which ones, because that requires an accountant, and I don't want to speak out of turn. But this is a government. This is a president. This is an administration that has made it its top priority to deregulate the government and make it as efficient as possible. And over the past 3 years, over the past year and change, there have been not less than 3 modifications to the law, which have would have allowed for the wheels of the economy, real estate, to work more efficiently. They have eliminated certain taxes. They have upped certain floor amounts to when taxes are paid. So all of this has aided in turning back on the machinery of the economy so that money is spent.
Okay. Really interesting, Max. I'm just thinking, what is the best piece of advice that you would give someone considering buying in Buenos Aires?
Well, the first piece of advice would be do all of your due diligence. Don't come in thinking that because you might be a seasoned investor of 40 years, having purchased in the US, the UK, Croatia, France, that you know what you're doing. Argentina has its own set of rules. Latin America has its own set of rules. But even apart from that, Argentina has its own set of rules. Okay. So you are going to discover that there is a level of bureaucracy and there is a level of how steps and how things are done that may come as a shock, not least of which is the fact that real estate transactions are handled in cash. And when I say cash, 9 times out of 10, it means that people come with the money in a satchel like the Clint Eastwood movies, flop it on a table. The money is, we had one deal like that today where money, $350,000 counted in a bank. The bills were examined, and the deal was signed right then and there. So this doesn't mean that it makes the transaction, you don't have to go running for the hills, because our office, part of what we do is we assist from A to Z in getting it done, however it needs to get done. But that would be number one, keep an open mind in terms of how things are done and what to expect. And again, we do a lot of hand-holding to that effect. The second maybe bit of advice would be, don't go at it alone. Find someone whom you know for a fact, or to the best of your knowledge, will be able to point you in the right direction. Yeah. Because there isn't really a system in place to where there is the one person who solves all your problems. We have sort of carved out that niche so that we can be like a kind of a one-stop shop to help with people who, okay, now you've got to do this. Okay, now you're going to talk to that guy and you're going to do this. Because otherwise, what I mentioned, for example, about the tax ID, some people don't know about that, nor should they. They don't know where to go to next or what to do. And the listing agent might just say, oh, I only have this property for sale. Do you want to buy it? Yes or no? So in an effort to avoid that frustration, it's good to come in with as much knowledge as you can. And nowadays with the internet, there's any number of resources out there where people can find out, at least get cursory information, and then from there maybe go down the rabbit hole and see who they end up talking to, which could be us, could be anyone else. But
do you think
don't
someone
go out
could?
alone.
I really hear you around the advice of having sort of someone on the ground helping you out. Is it possible to buy remotely? Just completely remote.
Oh, yeah.
Someone, do you ever have that where someone, they haven't visited the country but they're interested?
We've had cases, yes. We've had cases with people who have bought sight unseen, not sight unseen, but let me do differently. We have clients that have purchased through us, in us working as a buyer's broker, that we have not met in person. That we've connected via video call or regular call, and they've reached out and said, "I saw this property on the MLS. I'd like for you to go and check it out. If it checks the boxes of what I'm looking for, let's make an offer." Now, of course, this requires, first of all, it requires a very specific type of investor, because I don't know about the UK, but I do know that in the US, that kind of thing is part and parcel with what people do. They'll look at something from California, they'll look at something in Louisiana, say, "I'm going to buy it, I'm going to put a bid," and I bought it and I haven't even seen it. That's not so common here in Argentina, but we've had a handful of cases with foreigners where they have done it. And to your question, it can be done. I hearken back to what I said about, if you're going to do that, you want to make damn sure you know who you're talking with and who's helping you in the process, because the person who's going to be boots on the ground doing that for you is going to be your legal appointee. He's going to need power of attorney, which it could be a limited power of attorney. It's not going to be something that's going to necessarily, complicate the other person's life. It could be a limited power of attorney, but it's going to be someone to whom you're going to be sending money. So yes, it can absolutely be done. And again, boiling back to the first point, which is, know who you're getting in bed with in terms of the assistance you're getting.
Right. Really interesting. So how does everyone get hold of you? What's your agency's name, and how do we get hold of you if we're watching?
My agency name, the acronym is MGNI, which is basically for Spanish, Götz Negocios Inmobiliarios. You can Google us by that way, or just by my name, or if you just, our website is mgotz.com. We've also been fortunate enough to have been showcased on some YouTube channels with quite a few viewers, and well, now thankfully you as well. So that also helps get the word out. We had a little bit of a stint on House Hunters International, which was loads of fun, and that also kind of helped us. So, just the regular, like I said, nowadays you just Google, I guess, Argentine realtor, and if the algorithm feels that I'm good at it, my name will pop up first.
Yeah. Excellent. It's been really helpful, and I'm sure anybody that's listening, considering buying in your region, will have found that really useful. I actually look forward to meeting you in person as well and visiting Buenos Aires. But thanks very much for the information. That's been great.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the invitation. This was great. And of course, I will be looking forward to having you in Buenos Aires, and we'll have a coffee or lunch, and I'll answer whatever questions I can.
Okay, you've been listening to the Global Real Estate Insider podcast. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it's useful. Please do send us any comments about it, or I can even pass on questions for Max if you can't find him on the internet. But hope you found that useful. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Global Real Estate Investor Podcast. If you're a buyer or investor, be sure to visit our platforms, homesgofast.com and europeanproperty.com. You'll find thousands of properties for sale and investment opportunities listed by agents, developers, and private owners. Whether you're looking for a second home, a luxury estate, or a profitable investment, we have something for you on our platforms. Don't miss out. Check out homesgofast.com and europeanproperty.com today. And remember, stay tuned for more insights and expert advice on global real estate.